Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Kopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Good evening. So tonight we will read a verse, one verse from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and we will read from chapter 3, Karma Yoga, text 3. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What does that sign say there, Dvijamani? I can't exactly read it. Are they here tonight?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh. So you've been married for 50 years?
Yes. And it's good.
That's a long time.
Yes. My husband is here. He's parking the car right now.
Oh, he's parking the car.
Yeah.
Good husband, right?
Yes.
Parks the car.
Yes. No complaint. That's like last 50 years.
Yeah. That's a long time to be married for 50 years. All right. Congratulations to you, Hare Krishna. All right. So, text 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvivida Nishta Pura Prokta Mayanaga Jnana Yogena Sankyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Purport. So before we begin, yes, it's their 50th anniversary, and they sponsored the feast tonight. So that means, there's no required donation for anybody to give. So if everybody could just shower their blessings on them by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so purport. In the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of the nature of the spirit and matter, is a subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness, as explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter. The Lord has explained also in the 39th verse that by working by the principles of Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action. And furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st, excuse me. In the 61st verse, that this Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the Superself. The indirect process is philosophical speculation by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting everything with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and, anyone want to guess what? Easy and sublime. Om Jnanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Kaditavachalam Pankam Langai Tegadim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundini Taranam Vanchakaputribhishta Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Triveda Prabhu has been living as a brahmachari for, was it like 50 years? Right? Yeah, 50 years. Yeah, 50 years in March. Our Triveda Prabhu, long time brahmachari. It's also very glorious. Yamunapati, our Yamunapati Prabhu here, he retired recently, and now he's spending a good amount of time distributing knowledge, spiritual knowledge to the general public. He goes to Balboa Park regularly, sets up a book table, distributes Bhagavad Gitas, so many other books, so it's also a very wonderful thing. So anyways, there's so many wonderful things going on. So in relation to this verse today, Krishna is mentioning how there's different types of people and they undergo different types of processes to understand the self or soul. Because this particular chapter, Krishna is explaining the nature of the soul. And yeah, there's the process of philosophical speculation, and there's the process of bhakti or devotional service, in terms of understanding the self. So when we talk about trying to understand things, because one can go through life not understanding much, means not understanding things in a deep way, understanding things in a very superficial way or a shallow way. But you could say a thoughtful person or a fortunate person, they tried to scratch the surface a little more. They tried to understand things deep in a deeper sense. Just like happiness also. There's all different types of happiness. And all living entities, and whatever particular species of life they're in, they're all seeking happiness. And they're seeking happiness according to their particular level of consciousness or according to their particular conditioning, level of consciousness, conditioning. They're seeking happiness in different ways, according to their level of intelligence. But again, a fortunate person, a thoughtful person, they will think to themselves, okay, there's so many forms of happiness all over the world. So you go to Dubai, you go to Istanbul, Turkey, you're in San Diego, you're here, you're there. There's all different types of forms of happiness everywhere. It's all more or less the same. But little different sceneries. But again, in a fortunate person and a thoughtful person, they will think, okay, is there a perfect form of happiness? And sometimes, people wonder about that. Is there a perfect form of happiness? One thing is, does anyone ever claim does any process out there ever claim to give one perfect happiness? What do you think? Of course, every religious process. including Krishna consciousness. It claims that by practicing the tenets of Bhagavad Gita, by learning the principles of Bhagavad Gita and by applying them in one's life, one will gradually reach the state of perfect happiness and the soul in connection with the Supreme Soul. That's real happiness, if anybody's wondering. And this gradual state, it's interesting. Srila Prabhupada gave an example I've heard recently, which it doesn't seem that I haven't heard him give it that much, or that often. But I heard recently he gave the example of the different stages of the moon. Because eventually it's full moon, but there's different stages, and gradually the moon's getting. The effulgence is becoming more and more and more until it becomes a full moon. So similarly, he was making the point that in relation to our spiritual advancement, in relation to our God realization, our self-realization, it's like that. The different stages, rising moon, or eventually becomes a full moon. But again, it's not automatic in the sense that it's not like you just sit in class or you sit with your hand in your bead bag, or means japa bead bag, you're chanting Hare Krishna japa on your beads, or whatever other, if you want to call them rituals, that could be done. But it requires that one actually puts their heart into it, and that one is inquisitive, that they actually want to know, or that they actually want to make progress. Or else it's very difficult to make progress, unless we really want it. But in relation to this point of inquiry and actually wanting to know, it's very important. The Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, states that now that we've come to the human form of life, which it's understood there's so many forms of life. There's whole civilizations, animal civilizations. I'm not talking about New York City. There's whole animal civilizations, and it's like a whole war zone, actually. And like, for example, in the jungles of Indonesia or something, whatever jungles you go to, it's a whole war zone going on, whole civilization. Very frightening species of life to be in. You're always, scared somebody's going to come and kill you, eat you for whatever, dinner or something. Very scary. But so many of these species of life, at least the Vedic understanding is that they don't have the power to inquire. So the Vedanta Sutra is saying that now we have this human form of life, means we're not in any other species of life. The soul, us as the soul, is not in the form of a whale or a dog or a cat or whatever, snake or whatever animal, whatever species. But now that we're in this human form, it says it's time to inquire. It's time to ask questions. And specifically, it says it's time to ask questions in relation to what? In relation to the absolute truth. The Vedanta Sutra doesn't say, okay, now you've got this human form of life. Now it's time to ask questions about, the stock market, right? Or now you have this human form of life. Now it's time to ask questions about politics, right? So that's a increasingly favorite topic amongst humans nowadays. Or now you have this human form of life. Now it's time to inquire about how to, eat and sleep nicely. It doesn't say that, but it says, now you have this human form of life. It's time to inquire into the absolute truth. Who am I? Who is God? What is the process of God realization? And so on. So, in relation to this, says there's two classes, those who have a tendency towards philosophical speculation and those who engage in the process of bhakti, or devotion. So Srila Prabhupada, he quotes in the purport here, or he mentions in the purport here, he's actually quoting his spiritual master, which has become a bit of a famous quote amongst followers of Srila Prabhupada, that, and it's here, that religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism. So religion, okay, it's the process of, literally means to connect, the soul connecting with God. Religion. So religion without philosophy is sentiment. In other words, when there's no talk of the nature of reality, of the nature of God, the purpose of life, when there's no investigation into those things, when it's just completely based on feeling and emotion, that is when religion without philosophy, that's when it becomes sentiment. It's just pure emotional platform. And this has turned a lot of people away from religion. They think, where's the logic? Where's the reason? You just believe. Just believe in Jesus. Just believe in Buddha. Just believe in Krishna. But there's no sense of trying to understand what Krishna says. It means the nature of reality, the nature of who we are, the nature of God. It becomes sentimental or an emotional platform. Or, he says, sometimes it becomes fanaticism, which kind of some sentimental and fanaticism, they kind of merge a bit. But fanaticism, definition, okay, you have certain beliefs, and Hare Krishna, Bella. Hare Krishna. Fanaticism, you have certain beliefs, you could say extreme beliefs, and they tend to turn into some type of violence. You become a fanatic. So religion without philosophy becomes like that, becomes sentimental. Whereas, by the way, within the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never asks anybody to believe in him, but he outlines philosophical principles in which he leaves it to the individual to investigate and decide whether they should surrender to Krishna or not through their intelligence. But yeah, so it becomes sentimental, becomes fanaticism. And this is the problem. This is a problem with religion sometimes. And then he says that while philosophy without religion is mental speculation, so just philosophizing and not really engaging in a particular process means a process for self-realization, for God realization. It's just, you could say, like mental gymnastics, just kind of, on the mental platform. So Krishna consciousness, it means it's above the emotional platform, it's above the mental platform. it brings us to the spiritual platform. But Krishna consciousness, it combines both, you could say, sentiment or emotion, as well as intellect. So both of them are important. There's so much philosophy within Bhagavad Gita, but ultimately, what is the end, right? Bhakti Vedanta. Veda's knowledge, Anta's end, bhakti. Bhakti is the end of all knowledge. And bhakti is an affair of the heart. I mean, the heart of the living entity, or you could say the consciousness or the living entity, showing their devotion, showing their loving devotion to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But both of them are combined. The intellect there's intellectual nourishment, and there's also nourishment in relation to the emotional side. So it covers both. And therefore, as our spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada, would comment or would mention, that there's a great need in present-day society, and there's a need for Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. And specifically, he would always stress there's a great need for spiritual education, for the children to become educated, everyone to become educated, because it is that ignorance or that lack of knowledge or that lack of being convinced of the absolute truth that is the cause of all suffering. So if we're able to learn and become educated by studying the Bhagavad Gita, which is not like listening to class, for example, it's not a pointless ritual, or reading Bhagavad Gita. It's not a pointless ritual, but it is meant to purify us or inspire us or convince us more of the importance of Krishna consciousness. So if we're able to engage ourselves like that, then we will be able to gradually experience the perfect form of happiness, which Srila Prabhupada would mention sometimes, the beginning stages being freedom from anxiety. And that's just beginning stages. There's a lot more than that. So does anybody have any, that was just 30 minutes, 29 minutes. Does anybody have any question or comment? Anything? Yes, sir. Where are you visiting from? Toronto.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank
Prabhu.
you for visiting us.
Thank you. So Maharaj, you mentioned the first stage is getting rid of anxiety. What's what are the next steps? Or let's say if I want to see what the progress is, which step? So what are the next steps after, clearing of anxiety, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, like says samsara dava naralidha loka tranaya karunya gana ganatam praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande guroshri charanadavindam. That says that material existence is like a blazing fire, and that fire is blazing in our heart. And what is that fire? It's a fire of anxiety. And the fire, it's compared to a fire that happens in a jungle. In the jungle, no one creates a fire, at least usually. In this example, nobody creates a fire, but the fire happens by friction of bamboo. and wind, and then it ignites. So we see that in our lives, no one wants anxiety. No one wants suffering. Nobody wants these things, but it just happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but sometimes it happens. Like friction in marriage, for example. I was just thinking, okay, you have somebody here. I guess she just left. Okay, there she is. You have them here. They've been married for 50 years, right? Huh? He's there. Okay, there he is. 50-year husband there. So now we won't get into the details because, we're not having this type of discussion here in the temple room about, the nature of their marriage or whether there was, ups and downs or friction or whatever. But at least you could say that they spent so many years together, so you could say that there wasn't any, heavy duty friction, or else they would have, not lasted 50 years. But sometimes friction comes, whatever, at work, marriage, within one's mind, countries, between country, there's friction. So people don't want it, but it happens. So in this song, Samsara Davana Lita Loka, that it's a blazing fire, but the spiritual master or the teacher, the guru, they're in this example said to be like a cloud. If you have a raging fire in the forest and then a rain cloud comes, big rain cloud, and just starts pouring rain, this is how the fire is extinguished. And it's not that he has his own, you could say, it's not that it's his own mercy or own rain, but he's getting that from the ocean, which is compared to be like Krishna. So, and what is that rain? The rain is the instructions of the guru. The spiritual teacher gives us instructions, and by those instructions, that fire is put out, and it's the fire of anxiety. But then that song goes on, Maha Prabho Kirtananritya Gita, that the spiritual master is always busy. He's playing kartals, he's playing mridanga, he's chanting Hare Krishna, other spiritual songs. He's dancing in ecstasy, and while he's dancing, his hairs are standing on end, he's crying, he's shivering in ecstasy, absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So now this whole song is explaining the spiritual master. There's 8 verses. We won't go through all of them. But I'm mentioning the second one because the second one is talking how the spiritual master is engaged in this way, and he teaches his students to do the same. And by that chanting, by that dancing, they experience great ecstasy, great happiness, bliss in relation to Krishna. So yeah, that's there. The kirtan, the ecstasy that comes from kirtan. So, and that, gradually becomes more and more realized through the chanting process. As one of our teachers says, do not think that this chanting and dancing will not bring you to the perfection. He said it will. And then one devotee, one contemporary follower of Lord Chaitanya, he says, but you have to do it. So yeah, that's something. Does anybody have any other? Is that Eric?
Yeah, I'll bring you the
Hey, Eric,
microphone.
Hare Krishna.
Well, you made it to India and Turkey. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I made it there and back.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
I appreciate you touching on a particular word, religion. And I read many moons ago somewhat of a definition of religion, meaning relation or a relationship. And it stuck with me that people of different faith walks or religions have their way of relation and relating. Can you expand on that or clarify this for me?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could say religion means to connect. It's practically the same word as yoga. Yoga means to reconnect, yoke. The soul connecting with the Supreme Soul through devotion. So, in relation to other religions, everybody has their concept of God. Some people think that God is like a light. There's no form. Some people think that God is a person. There's a personal form there. So those are the two main kind of concepts people have. And they engage in different processes or different activities that they have faith in that will bring them to the point of loving God. But the Bhagavatam says, Vadanti tat tat vavidas, that there are three aspects to the absolute truth. I'm holding my four fingers up. Three aspects to the absolute truth. There's Brahman effulgence, that's the impersonal light form of God. And then there's Krishna, or God within everybody's heart. What is he doing there? Is he sleeping? No. What is he doing there? He is giving us intelligence. He's guiding us according to our desires. He's given us intelligence, remembrance, forgetfulness. He's always trying to help us. Sometimes we hear what is said to be the conscience, right? That voice, hey, don't go there, don't go this way. Of course, we got to be careful about that. But the good voice, or this conscience, that's Krishna. So God within everybody's heart. But then there's the supreme aspect of God, and that is Bhagavan, or Krishna, as a person. So, but yeah, according to different religions, there's different concepts, and then people engage in different ways of meditation or prayer and so on. Like in some traditions, deity worship, like we have here, we have our beautiful deities. But deity worship, according to some traditions, is not at all considered an authentic process of God realization. Even, what's that group in India? Yeah, Arya Samaj. They don't accept deity worship at all, for example. Those of you who might have some knowledge of them. Of course, other traditions also. Christianity, Islam, they don't accept. But they have their forms of connecting, and then we have our forms of connecting, which sometimes they're similar, but sometimes there's a vast difference, like deity worship. Of course, deity worship is there because we cannot see Krishna with our material eyes, so he appears in the form of a deity. Yeah. So I hope that.
Thank you.
Any other? Yes, sir. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, to you as well.
So my question is about three things. First is intellect, mind, and emotions. According to Krishna, intellect is something which is above the mind, right? But then why it is difficult to control our emotions if we are applying our intellect? And if you can talk a little bit about the emotional intelligence, which people have been talking about since so many years now, highlighting where do you think Krishna believes in that type of?
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So if intelligence is above the mind, and you could say emotions, then why is it difficult to control the emotions? Sometimes we have we have difficulty with that, right? Control our anger or whatever. Well, because the idea is that in material existence, the intelligence is weak. It's not strong. Therefore, the idea is to sharpen the intelligence. Just like when you cut vegetables in the kitchen, you could use a dull knife to cut your eggplant to make your sabji, right? Make your nice vegetable preparation. But if you have a dull knife, it doesn't work very well. Or try using a butter knife or something, right? It's just not. But if you have a sharp knife, it'll just very easy. So the idea within Krishna consciousness is to sharpen our intelligence. With the message of the Bhagavad Gita, we sharpen our intelligence. With chanting Hare Krishna, we sharpen our intelligence. And that we're able to, we are not, you could say, servants of our senses or our emotions unnecessarily. We don't become entangled or bound up in illusion based on our uncontrolled emotions. Just like jail, right? There's prisons all over the place. A lot of prisoners. Why are there prisons? It means people have lost control over their emotions. They have greed and, okay, let's rob a bank, or, their anger, okay, let's violently, hurt somebody. Like they're just losing control over their emotions. So, of course, could say we may not have those in a strong way, but one could become illusioned in other ways, based on one's emotions. So the idea is to strengthen our intelligence through Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Yes.
In my work field, they'd have us sometimes take different seminars, and how to manage and, partner with people, And I know in emotional intelligence, there was, what happens is people can be very intelligent in terms of, management systems, understanding how to get a certain outcome. But they would talk about emotional intelligence as like interpersonal skills, like being in touch and sensitive to, each individual as a person.
Yeah.
And I was thinking in terms of devotional service, it's the ultimate personalism, right?
Yeah.
That we understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. We understand our relationship, with the devotees who are dear to Krishna, and also a relationship with all living beings. So it's like kind of taking a step back and, being very considerate on that level.
Yes.
So that was just another angle to look at it.
Yes, thank you very much. That was the other half of the question answered. Thank you.
Oh, maybe I interrupted.
No. I wasn't going to answer that part. So I'm glad you did. No, I actually am glad. And it's a good point because, Krishna, you could say he's the best, most expert in relation to emotional intelligence. He knows how to very expertly deal with every living entity. So as spiritual practitioners, we're also supposed to have that, how to deal with everyone in a proper way to encourage them in Krishna consciousness. And so any last question or
Namaskar, Guruji. Guruji, suppose I have a thought which can manifest as a karma. Now I have to make a decision about that thought. Now, how do I differentiate or understand whether an inner voice which is coming and helping me to make a decision on that karma, is it my intellectual which is corrupted, or it is the soul that is telling me, you do this? How do I differentiate and understand that?
Thank you. Nice question. At one time, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, what is the difference between the mind and the intelligence? And Srila Prabhupada gave an interesting answer. He said, the mind will say, jump off the building, and the intelligence will say, no. Now, again, I mean, it's unfortunate, but, the intelligence could become extremely corrupted, in which the mind says to do something and the intelligence doesn't have the power to say no. Like, so many things, jumping off the building. I mean, it's, but you're asking, okay, well, how do we know, how do we tell, is it the soul, or is it Krishna? Because the idea is that there's the soul, us, within the body, right? And then there's the super soul, Krishna. So you got the soul and the super soul. So are we hearing the voice of the super soul, or are we just hearing the voice of our mind?
Intellectual, yeah.
Or intellect, which Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita in the third chapter, I believe, how the mind and intelligence and they've been captured by lust or selfishness, contaminated. So by purifying our consciousness, by chanting Hare Krishna, by engaging in the process of bhakti, the super soul will, you could say, will be able to more easily hear the super soul or follow the directions of the super soul. Now, how do we know whether it's the directions of the super soul? That has to be in line with the Bhagavad Gita, or what we say, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So the Guru is the external manifestation of the super soul. He's not God, but he's a servant of God. But he's seen to be the external manifestation of the super soul. And then you have sadhu, saintly persons, devotees, and then you have scripture. So if that voice is in line with the message of the guru, the message of the scripture, the message of the saintly persons, then it's considered super soul. And then you say, well, sometimes that's not clear if it's in line. Well, therefore, we could ask the guru, is this... Now, of course, when we say guru, it's a whole topic, who's a guru, who's a saintly person, what is scripture? That's a whole topic. But we would say the guru is the dear servant of Krishna. The saintly persons are those who follow the scriptures and who have so many good qualities, and the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and other books like that. So in that way, we could get some indication. Yeah. Okay. So as I think Mukunda mentioned, that I was gone for 30 days. I got back Thursday night around 10 p.m. And mostly I went to India, and I brought two devotees for their first time. They're not here right now, but Evelyn and Uli, couple, I brought there to Mayapur, which is outside of Kolkata. It's a very famous holy place within this tradition. So we went there, and then they went back, and I spent some time in Turkey, in Istanbul, and Ankara. Istanbul has a center there. They have a restaurant And then above, they have a yoga studio where they hold their weekly gatherings. Of course, it's a Muslim country, so there's some restrictions from the government. But yeah, there is a center there, also in Ankara. So I spent 5 days in each place, giving classes every morning and every evening. They were keeping me busy. And yeah, also some time in India. So I just thought that we would just show you a few pictures. Not many pictures, just a few. And if any of you were wondering how my trip to India was, it was in Turkey. It was wonderful, just in case you're wondering. But then here's some, I think we could turn the lights off more, right? Or completely. Yeah, I think we could turn that one. Okay, that's better. So this picture was taken, I was on top of a building. The building I was on top of, we were on top of where it was Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. So we have our spiritual teacher here, Srila Prabhupada. His Samadhi is like his memorial. Specifically, it's his Pushpa Samadhi flower. When he passed away, they took a flower from the garland he was wearing and they buried it, and then they built this memorial. So I'm standing on the roof of that memorial, and there's this picture here, and this picture is of a very big temple, temple of Vedic planetarium, and out of all the religious structures of the world, this is one of the biggest ones. They're like for example, you have the Taj Mahal, you have anyways, a number of different ones. This is being built now. It's being they've been working on it for the last 10 years. It's a very big project. And this was Srila Prabhupada's desire. He wanted this temple to be built. And they're also going to have a Vedic planetarium in there, which they display the idea of the universe according to the Vedas. So yeah, it's already attracting a lot of people. I mean, I've been going there for years, and every time there's a lot more people. So that's a picture of the temple. Next. There's another picture. See, there's a construction, they're constantly building. You see that pink, Dwijamani, there's a, if you go into the audio room and where you turn on the light, there's like a little, a red pointer. It's a magnet there that Brisa got. So anyways, in the far back, there's that building there. That's a guest house. That's like I don't know, maybe a 5-story guest house, something like that. So you can see how big the temple is. It's quite a big project. See, that's the guest house. So that's a really big project. Millions of dollars. I'm not sure how many millions. Actually, Srila Prabhupada initiated one devotee in the early days, Alfred Ford, who's the great-grandson? Yeah, something like that, of Henry Ford. Anybody drives a Ford here? Okay. All right, next. Okay, there's me. Surprise, surprise. Okay, next. There's me again. This is in the temple, our main temple now, which the deities will be moved to the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So, yeah, I gave a class there in the morning. It was my first class in Mayapur. So it was quite, it was quite enlivening to be there and to speak with the devotees. And while you're giving class, you look to the left and there's beautiful deities of Radha, Krishna, and the gopis. So it's very nice opportunity to glorify Krishna. Okay, next. So this is This is Dameshwar Mahaprabhu. Dameshwar Mahaprabhu, he's a deity of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's Krishna come again around 500 years ago, spreading the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra throughout the subcontinent of India, the process of love of God or God realization in this age. So at the age of 24, he accepted sannyas. He left his young wife and mother, and he went out into the world to spread Krishna consciousness. And his wife, Vishnupriya, she worshipped this deity. Ever since Lord Chaitanya left, she worshipped this deity for many, many years. And she was such a wonderful devotee, to say the least. I mean, really austere. It says that she would, for every round of japa, 108 beads, she would put a grain of rice there. And at the end, she'd boil that rice, offer it to the deity, and then she'd have prasadam. So yeah, we went and saw this deity. You see there's this green here? This is a swing. They swing the deity. It's a big swing, so. Okay, next. This is Lord Jagannath and Baladev and Subhadra and is it Rajpur? Yeah. Near the Mayapur temple. So very beautiful deities. Okay, next. This is the group of devotees in Kolkata. We did a little program there. We were chanting and I gave a talk and this and that. And their house is really simple, you could see. It's like super simple. So I was joking with Evelyn and Uli. I was saying, they have space for you here if you want to move here, But I felt it was such a nice spiritual atmosphere. I felt they were very enthusiastic, chanting and dancing and just a really nice group. So, it goes to show that you could be happy in any situation. Okay, next. This is Goshala, feeding the cows. So I brought Evelyn and Uli, this couple here, to India. Okay, next. So, wonder what is this? We're leaving Mayapur, and it was Ramadan, the fasting, for a month. People in Islam follow. So while we're on the road, we're moving to Kolkata, and then our taxi guy stopped and he said, "Okay, we have to wait here for an hour because they're having Ramadan and there's a bunch of people on the streets." So we couldn't move. All right, next. So we decided to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. You see Uli here with his hands folded. Okay, next. This is in Kolkata, at one devotee's house, Radha Jivan. I took this picture and I was telling Radha Jivan that this couple, they're like your children. I was telling him that. And you can see here he was getting a little emotional and he was saying, "Yes, they're like my children." And he said, I'll be very sad when they leave. We were only there for like a day and a half. It was his first time meeting them too. So nice devotee. Okay, next. Radha Jivan and his wife, and Evelyn and Uli. All right, next. Oh, what about the turkey one? So there's a few pictures from Mayapur and Kolkata, and just a few more pictures. Okay, so that's a little program with the Turkish devotees in Ankara. Next. Can you go to the next one? Okay, that's the airport. Okay, this is the last one. So this is a group of devotees in Ankara. Very nice devotees. I stayed with Dinabandhu. This is his house. Dinabandhu and his wife Chandramala. They're initiated by Shivaram Swami. He spends a lot of time and spends some time in Turkey. Most of them are coming from Muslim backgrounds. This fellow, he just started coming. It's interesting. He just started coming. He's been there for a few times, but he said he was looking into God and looking into religion, and then he started reading the Bhagavad Gita. His father's a Muslim, his mother's somewhere in between. But he started reading Prabhupada's Gita. And then he got his mother to read the Gita. She's a nice, open person. And then he started identifying as a Vaishnava, like as a devotee of Krishna. And he told his brother that, his older brother. They're living in Ankara. There's not even a temple there. It's just homes. Devotees meet at people's homes. We're at somebody's home. So, and then he told his brother, I'm a Vaishnava. And his brother said, oh, that's interesting. He said, come into my room. So then he went into his older brother's room, and his older brother said, I also read Bhagavad Gita. And then his older brother said, but I identify as a Sri Vaishnava, which is, Sri Vaishnavas are from South India, and they worship Vishnu. And this brother, Burke, his name is, he identifies as a worshiper of Krishna. But it was interesting. But his older brother was into this for a while, and he didn't even know about it. So you have these two brothers in a household. So this is a group in Turkey. So that's it, just a few pictures. So now we will stand up and we'll have kirtan. So if everybody could just, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.